We'll begin laying on our backs. Start with your knees bent and allow the heaviness of your bones, particularly the sacrum, that triangular bone at the base of your spine, to settle. If it's comfortable for you to extend the heels away from the crown of the head, you can do that. If that causes any discomfort in your lower back, remember you can always keep your knees bent, feet wide, and let the knees fall together to support the low back and allow the legs to relax. Bring your awareness to your breath and take a moment to check in with yourself before we really get moving. Notice the quality of your breath in this moment. Notice if your chest feels tight or open, if your breath is short or long, if the inhales or the exhales bear more weight at this moment. And then bring the awareness to the diaphragm. And as you inhale, feel it expand downward. As you exhale, feel the front body soften back and the back body spread wide across the floor. With your next inhale, breathe all the way down into the lower abdomen, pelvic floor, bottoms of the feet and tips of your toes. And as you exhale completely, soften back and spread wide. Have a few more deep, long breaths, just like that. Inhaling your awareness back down into the body. And as you exhale and sink into the support of the ground beneath you, connect to that universal blueprint for optimal alignment and energetic flow. Bones and joints stacked in the back body plane. And then with an inhale, draw your awareness from the bottoms of your feet and the tips of your toes. Inhale up the legs, into the pelvis, the hips, the low back. Notice any areas of tension, soreness, general discomfort. And as you inhale deeply, breathe into those places. Gently open and expand with your in-breath. As you exhale completely, allow tension to leave your body with your breath. Allow your next inhale to draw your awareness up your torso, into your shoulders, your neck, and your face. Once again, just noticing where in your upper body you're holding tension today. And use the breath to go there. Inhale deeply, create space. Invite fresh blood and oxygen to flow through those areas, bringing health, healing, and vitality. As you exhale completely, continue the conversation of consciously asking your body to soften, release, and let go. Lastly, bring your awareness to your mind and notice where the thoughts are at. Notice the speed at which they move through you. Allow yourself to step back from identifying as your thoughts and begin to just witness their passing through your mind like clouds through the sky, without getting attached or carried away, without judging yourself for what you're thinking about, but just beginning to notice the habits and patterns in the way your mind turns. And then bring your awareness back and anchor it fully on your breath. We're gonna bring the soles of our feet together in Supta Baddha Konasana, that like butterfly shape from gym class, and have 5 more deep, long breaths. Breathe down through the legs to the bottoms of the feet and the tips of your toes. And as you exhale completely, consciously ask the inner groin, the hips, to soften, release, and let go. Play with pressing all the toes together and opening up through the arch of your foot for 1 breath. And then play with the pinky toes pressed together and the big toe mound opening up for another breath. See if you can feel how that opening of the big toe mound allows the femur bone to soften out of the hip socket. Notice if one hip is held up, one leg is held up away from the ground more than the other. It's letting you know that that hip is a little bit tighter. Send a breath there. Consciously asking the body to release and let go with each and every exhale. And then bring the hands to the outside of your thighs. And with an inhale, draw the knees towards each other, ground the feet. Cross your right ankle over your left knee. Keep your right foot either flexed or pointed, but active to keep the ankle in line with the knee joint. And bring your hands into your hip creases. Stick your booty out slightly towards the floor. That action of thigh bones back that broadens the sacrum. And then press the palms into the hip creases, lengthening the tailbone as you breathe the crown of the head in the opposite direction. Have 3 more deep, long breaths here. It might feel good to interlace your hands behind that left thigh, continuing to press the legs into the hands as you then draw the legs more deeply towards yourself. And I lied, have 3 more breaths here. It's also fine to continue this stretch with the left foot grounded and the hands in the hip creases. It's really just about you exploring what works and what creates more space and stretch in your body. With an exhale, release. Release that right leg. It might feel good to sway your knees from side to side for a moment. Good. And then cross that left ankle over the right knee. Flex the left foot or point it, but keep it active. Maybe explore what feels better in your body today. Bring your hands into the hip creases. Press the sacrum towards the floor, bringing a slight arch into your lower back. And then press the thigh bones away from you. As you breathe, lengthen space into the spine. Maybe you want to stay right here. Maybe you want to lift that right leg and interlace your hands behind your right thigh. Continuing to press the legs into the hands to lengthen your lower back as you draw the legs more actively towards yourself. 3 more deep, long breaths. Breathe into the outer left hip. Allow the exhales to facilitate softening and release in your body. And with an exhale, let go. Ground your left foot. Sway your knees from side to side again. Oh. Good. Lastly, extend your left leg out along the mat, foot flexed and active, toes pointing straight up. Draw the right knee into the chest. Maybe you can interlace your hands behind the thigh here. Maybe you can stack your ankle above your knee and grab onto the outside edge of your foot, one side with each hand. Whatever variation you're in, you are pulling that leg down, knee towards the armpit. As you press out through the left heel, root the left thigh bone down, and take the outer right hip down towards the left heel. So we're not letting that hip poke out and up, right? We're keeping balance and evenness in the pelvis as we stretch. 3 more deep, long breaths. Allowing the compression at the hip joint to soften the muscles there. And with an exhale, you can release the right leg to the mat. Shimmy out your hips a little bit. Feel the different sensations on the different sides of your body. And then with an inhale, draw the left knee into the chest. Right foot is flexed and active. Press out through the right heel and down through the right thigh bone to open up through that right hip flexor. Maybe you're interlacing your hands behind your left thigh. Maybe you can stack the ankle over the knee and grab the outside edge of your foot. Either way, pulling the knee down towards the armpit as you press the right thigh bone down and press out through the right heel. Root that outer left hip down, so we don't want to let the leg splay out or the hip lift up. 3 more deep, long breaths. Allowing your exhales to soften the hip flexors. And release. Shimmy out your hips a little bit. Then draw your knees into your chest. Rock from side to side. Massage your low back. When you are ready, roll to the right side. Press down to lift up. Come to a comfortable seated position. Keep your eyes closed for just another moment. Check back in. Looking for that same alignment, the stacking of the bones and joints in the back body plane. Build your connection to the shape from the ground up. Inner rotate the thighs. to move the flesh of the buttocks out, this action of taking the thigh bones back that widens the base of the pelvis. Feel that you are pressing evenly through both sits bones. Remembering that if the pelvis tilts back, you can always sit up on a blanket or a block or any pillow you have laying around the house. Because if the pelvis is tilted back, the shoulders have to compensate for it. To get our pelvis into a neutral position, pressing down through both sits bones, enables us to inhale, lift, and lengthen through the crown of your head and the tips of your ears. Roll the shoulders together down and into your back body to fully broaden the collarbone. Slide your jawbone back, neck stacks over the spine, aligning this internal antenna that connects us to all things. And we have been working in the hips all week. The hips, the site of the second chakra, governing our emotions, our sexuality, and our subconscious creativity. And the hips are a place in our body that we get really tight. The hips are a very complicated joint. So there's ways in which you can have your hips super open in one way and then tight in another way. And that's gonna have ripple effects through your whole body. So you wanna become aware of what's actually going on in the hips. Remembering that the tension in the hips is symbolic of the traumas and dramas that we are clinging to. And since yesterday was May Day and Beltane, we are halfway through spring on our way to summer. And it is a day of workers' rights and solidarity with each other. So as we do this work of moving through the body and moving through the chakras, we start to see that our own individual patterns don't come out of nowhere. They are part of our larger collective habits and patterns. There are traumas that have been passed down to us through generations. And I invite you, now that we've spent a whole week in the hips, witnessing what arises, witnessing the things that we've kind of buried, and the way in which looking at those things, shining light on them, being willing to name and acknowledge them, gives us the power to heal. It allows us to take back all of that energy that went into creating these walls and cutting off parts of ourselves. It allows us to reintegrate and reconsolidate that energy and to put it towards the person we want to be, towards the projects, towards the patterns and habits that we actually want to consciously cultivate. So the question for today is, what are some of the collective traumas that we're holding in our hips that prevent us from trusting, loving one another, and truly being in solidarity? So just kind of making the connections between what we experience on an individual level and what we experience collectively. And remembering that the yoga practice starts within, but the idea is that it has ripple effects out into the world around us. And that the more people that are engaging in meditative, contemplative, embodied practices that look at themselves and look at the world We will reach a critical mass one day and things will truly begin to transform and change. So wanting to be part of that movement. With an inhale, you can reach your arms up and overhead. And exhale through your mouth with sound. Let's do that 2 more times, clearing our bodies out. Inhale deeply, stretch past your skin and fingertips. And exhale completely. Release. 1 more time. Inhale. And exhale. And we will inhale to prepare for the sound of Om 3 times together. Inhale deeply. Pause and observe how those vibrations resonate through your body, where sound gets stuck and the body constricts. Every part of this practice is just giving us information about the tendencies of our body and energy, about where things are stuck and blocked, so we can get in there, ask questions, create space, and realign so the energy flows through us optimally. We'll take a moment to connect more deeply to the breath. We will cultivate our Ujjayi breath, inhaling and exhaling through the nose while tightening up the back of the throat like you're fogging up a mirror. You can begin and breathe at your own pace. Allow your breath to become gently audible, like waves crashing on the shore. Allowing the sound to act as a focal point that steadies the mind as we witness what arises, abides, and dissolves. What moves through us and is released throughout the practice. We can continue this breath throughout our whole practice, so I'll remind you throughout the practice to come back to this breath. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose in general slows the breath down. Tightening up through the back of the throat further constricts the air passageways, generating a heat in the body that will continue to purify, clear things out. When you are ready with an inhale, gently open your eyes. Come onto hands and knees. Spread your fingers wide. Ground your knees right under your hips. Inhale, drop your abdomen down. Tilt your tailbone up, gaze up. Exhale, root the tailbone down, chin into the chest, curl your spine to the ceiling. Continue at your own pace. Sync the motions of the body with the breath. Use the breath to deepen the motions of the body and allow this synchronicity to bring you fully and completely into the present moment. Move in any way that feels good to you within the confines of the shapes. Allowing this practice to be playful. Explore with curiosity. the tendencies in your body, and the adjustments you can make. We'll begin to circle the hips in one direction, taking them back and wide to one side, and back and wide to the other side. Slightly forward, feeling free to pause, to sway, to explore the tension in the outer hips. And once you've done 3 to 5 circles in one direction, take it back in the other direction. Allow your breath to be deep and long, and to go into those areas that are tight and sore and stuck. Open and expand with your inhales. Soften and release with your exhales. When you are ready, tuck your toes, lift your hips high, and press back to downward facing dog. Feel free to pedal your feet, sway your hips. Move in any way that feels good to you here to get your wiggles out. And then we find stillness. Building the shape from the ground up. The hands as wide as the shoulders, evenly grounded. Feet as wide as the hips, evenly grounded. Inhale, lift and spread your fingers and toes. Stretch them out and ground them down. If there is a tension in the low back, hamstrings, if the low back is rounding, work with a slight bend in the knees. Make sure you bend the knees wide, right over the ankles. And then from that, and the feet have to turn, outer edge of the feet parallel with outer edge of the mat. Knees bend in line with the ankles. And then inhale, lift the hips high. Exhale, press your thigh bones back. Feel how this creates space in the lower back. Allow your head to hang heavy. That space in the lower back reflected in the neck. Have one more big breath. And inhale, float forward into plank pose. With your hips at the height of your shoulders, so lift your booty, your thigh bones back a little bit, and then draw the center of the buttocks into the midline. Always an option to lower the knees down behind the hips as we work the alignment in plank. But there's that rooting down from the tailbone through the knees or heels that brings energy into the legs. And from that, inhale, lift the abdomen towards the spine. Lengthen the crown of the head forward. With an exhale, lower the knees, the chest, and the chin to the floor. Press the tops of the feet down. Inhale, lift your heart, roll your shoulders back. Everything on the ground is your foundation. It presses firmly down to lift the heart and crown. Spread your toes and press your pinky toenail down. Feel that spread the sacrum. Every action in the feet has an effect on the rest of the body. With an exhale, seat to heels, child's pose. Allow the weight of the hips to settle towards the heels. Even if they don't touch the heels, there's this grounding energy in the lower body from the pelvis through the heels. And from that grounding of the lower body, we get leverage to inhale and walk your fingertips forward. Breathe length and space into each vertebrae in the spine. With each exhale, soften more deeply into the stretch. With an inhale, you're widening your left hip to the left as you lift your abdomen and walk your hands to the right. Place your abdomen on your right thigh and continue widening the left hip to the left. Breathe, lengthen space into both side bodies and sides of your neck. Have 3 more deep, long breaths. And inhale back to center. Exhale. Pause. Widen your right hip to the right. Inhale, lift your abdomen and walk your hands to the left. Place your abdomen on your left thigh and continue widening the right hip out as you walk the fingertips forward. Breathe length and space into each vertebrae. And exhale, soften more deeply. Have 3 more deep, long breaths here. And with an inhale, return to center. Exhale, pause. Inhale, rise, arch the back gaze up. Exhale, press back, downward facing dog. Return to your breath. Hands and feet evenly grounded. Turn the outer edge of your feet so that they're parallel with the outer edge of your mat. You can even take them extra wide and feel how that turning of the feet parallel with the outside edge of the mat rotates the thigh bone into the hip socket all the way up your leg. Slight bend in the knees, wide over the ankles, and then use that as leverage to inhale and lift your hips high. Make that V shape with your body. Exhale the thigh bones up and back to where the wall meets the ceiling. Feel it lengthen the lower back. Have 3 more deep, long breaths. Lift and spread the fingers and toes, stretch them out, ground them down. From that grounding, pressing through the 4 corners of the hands and feet, energetically if they're not all touching the floor, lift the hips, lift the abdomen towards your spine, thigh bones back. With an inhale, begin to walk your feet forward to meet your hands. Coming into a forward bend with the feet as wide as the hips. Outer edge of your feet parallel with outer edge of your mat. Feel free to bend the knees here to make it more accessible. Abdomen can come towards the thighs. Let your head hang heavy. Shake it out, yes. And no. Grab opposite elbows and sway. Move in any way that feels good to you here to release tension from the back, the shoulders, and the neck. Let it drain out through the crown of your head. With an inhale, return to center, and exhale, release. With your next inhale, begin to roll your spine up. The pelvis spins around the femur bones first. The vertebrae stack one on top of the other. Shoulders and head are the last things to rise. Good. Coming to stand at the top of your mat. We'll take a moment to check back in with our alignment now that we're in Tadasana, mountain pose. And you might notice when I face this direction that the alignment of my legs is totally fucked up. After like gymnastics and dance, my legs really hyperextend. My tendency is to turn my feet out, hyperextend my knees, put my hips forward, and wonder why like all the joints in my lower body hurt. So this action of turning the outer edge of your feet parallel with the outer edge of the mat rotates the thigh bone into the hip socket, all the way up the leg. With the feet facing forward as wide as your hips like this, stick your butt out. Taking the thigh bones back, sticking your booty out, broadens the sacrum. All of these actions are to make space in the lower back. So the thigh bones stay back, center of the hips over the knees and ankles. And then we draw the center of the buttocks into the midline to root the tailbone down. Also creating space lengthwise in the lower back. You may feel that engage the muscles of your legs, tighten your energetic connection to the earth. And as the tailbone roots down, the pelvic triangle, frontal hip bones draw up, in and up. And then we become a very strong container at the center of the body, at the pelvic area and low abdomen. A strong container to hold space, to have boundaries as we allow things to move through us. Remembering that the health of the whole body is dependent on our ability to release emotionally, sexually, creatively. So from that grounding in your legs, inhale and reach your arms up and overhead. Exhale, fold forward over the legs. Inhale, gaze forward, lengthen your spine. You're pressing your thigh bones back at the same time that you're lifting from the back of the thighs up. Even if the knees are bent, you can do this work and it will stretch your hamstrings. Inhale, gaze forward, get length. Exhale, right leg back. Lower the right knee down. Anjaneyasana on your left side. Inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. If that's accessible, if not, hands on your front thigh or even hands on the floor. Perfectly great options. Either way, as you inhale next, hug your legs towards each other energetically. See how that takes my thigh bones back. Then I root my tailbone down. Draw the whole center of your buttocks into the midline to open up through your back hip flexor. And then lift the frontal hip bones away from the front thigh bones. 3 more deep, long breaths. You can stay here at center, or you can grab the right wrist with the left hand and lean up and over to the left side. Inhale back to center and exhale, release. Ground your palms and step your front leg back to downward facing dog. You're welcome to stay in downward facing dog or to inhale and float forward into plank pose. Exhale, lower. Knees, chest, and chin. Press the tops of the feet down. Inhale, lift your heart, roll your shoulders back. Exhale, lift your hips. Press back. Downward facing dog. Return to your breath. Inhale, lift your right leg high. Lift from your inner thigh in the center of your heel. Press out through both heels and press that left thigh bone back, lengthening the lower back, balance and evenness in the pelvis. One more inhale, and exhale, step the right foot through between your hands. Lower your left knee down. Take whatever variation in the arms you took on the other side. Maybe you keep your hands grounded. Maybe you bring them up onto the front thigh. Maybe you lift them all the way up and overhead. But the actions of the legs to align the pelvis and create space in the lower back are the same. Inhale, pull your legs towards each other like scissors. See how it takes the thigh bones back and brings the hips to face forward. Root your tailbone down. Lift your frontal hip bones. And take the whole center of the buttocks forward. If you did so on the other side, grab the left wrist with the right hand and exhale up and over to the right for 3 more deep, long breaths. Even if we are stretching the side bodies, the bones and joints still stack in the back body plane. Inhale back to center. Exhale, release your hands down. Tuck your back toes. With an inhale, step your back foot forward. Exhale, fold deeply into your legs. Inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. Come to stand. Exhale, release your arms down by your sides. Check back in with your alignment. Notice if one foot goes forward or one foot turns out more than the other. Bring the body to center. Outer edge of the feet parallel with outer edge of the mat. Thigh bones back. Center of the hips over the knees and ankles. And then root your tailbone down. Pelvic triangle lifts in and up. Inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. Exhale, fold forward over your legs. Inhale, gaze forward, lengthen the spine. Exhale, left leg back this time. You're welcome to lower your back knee down or keep your back knee lifted this time. But the front knee stacks over the ankle. As you inhale, again, energetically pulling the legs towards each other. It's gonna inner rotate that back thigh and lift the thigh bone up. Rooting that right hip back and down towards the left heel. Stretch from the sacrum through the back heel and from the sacrum through the crown of the head. And then with an inhale, lift your right arm up. So the hips stay facing forward. The twist happens at the core. Press through the palms to roll the shoulders back. Have 3 breaths. And with an exhale, release. Step your right leg back, downward facing dog. Stay here or inhale, foot forward into plank pose. Exhale, lower knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga dandasana, bending the elbows just to 90 degrees. Inhale, lift the heart. Roll your shoulders back. Exhale, lift your hips. Downward facing dog. Return to your breath. Inhale the left leg high. Lift from the inner thigh in the center of the heel. Press out through both heels and press your right thigh bone back. Look at your hips. Are you creating balance and evenness? One more big inhale. Exhale, step through. The lunge on the left side. Lowering the back knee if you did so on the other side, or keeping it lifted. Either way, stack the front knee over the front ankle, and inhale, hug the legs towards each other like scissors. Get really engaged and compacted in the inner legs and the pelvic floor. Keep that as you extend through the heels and the crown of the head. And then inhale, lift the left arm up. Twisting from the core, press through your palms to roll the shoulders together down and into your back body. 3 breaths. And exhale, release. Inhale, step your back foot forward, lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold deeply. Inhale, reach your arms up and overhead, come to stand. Exhale, release your arms down by your sides. Tadasana, mountain pose. Check back in with your foundation. Gathering information about your tendencies. What adjustments do we need to make, both individually and on a collective level, to bring our world back into balance? Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold forward over your legs. Inhale, gaze forward, lengthen your spine. Exhale, ground your palms, step or jump back to plank pose. And find that lift of your thigh bones in plank and that rooting down of your tailbone that engages the legs to support the spine. Always an option to use the knees or not as you bend the elbows, shifting the weight forward. Inhale, lift your heart. Roll your shoulders back, pinky toes ground down. Exhale, lift your hips. Downward facing dog, return to your breath. Always an option to come into child's pose if that is something that your body is suggesting it may like. Each inhale, we're drawing in and up from the floor to the core. And each exhale, press out.
With an inhale, or we'll meet back in down dog if you're not already there. And with an inhale, gaze forward. Step or jump your feet to meet your hands. Get length through your spine. Exhale, fold deeply. Inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. Come to stand. Exhale, release your arms by your sides. Tadasana, mountain pose. One more time with sun salutation, A. Continuing all of these rituals of connecting our embodied practice to nature. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold deeply. Inhale, gaze forward, lengthen. Exhale, ground your palms, step or jump back, come to plank pose. Lift the thigh bones, root the tailbone down. Keep one long line of energy through the body as you bend the elbows straight back. Press the tops of the feet down. Inhale, lift your heart, roll your shoulders back. Exhale, lift your hips. Downward facing dog. Return to your breath or come to return to your breath in down dog or child's pose. Either way, allowing the breath to fill the body from the inside out like a balloon. And allowing each exhale to facilitate release on some layer or level of your being. Maybe it's physical today. Maybe it's emotional, intellectual, spiritual. We'll meet back in downward facing dog. And with an inhale, gaze forward. Step or jump your feet to meet your hands. Lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms down by your sides. Tadasana, mountain pose. The next shape we'll take is a chair pose. We can take chair pose with our feet wide or our feet together. But when we bend our knees, they have to bend in line with our ankles, not feet turned out and knees going in. That is gonna hurt your inner knees. And I see it every single time I teach, so be aware. Inhale, arms reach up, drop your seat, chair pose. Same action, sticking your booty out to get low. Rooting your tailbone down to lift the pelvic triangle in and up so you can lean back. 3 breaths. Shift your weight onto your right foot and step your left leg back. Warrior 1. So that same deep bend in your front knee, stacking it over your ankle. That same hugging of the legs together. That inner rotates the back thigh so the hips face forward. And then from the back of the knee, we're turning the heel in and pressing it down. The tailbone roots down so we can lift our frontal hip bones. 3 breaths. And with that third exhale, release, round your palms, step back. Move through a vinyasa or come to downward dog or child's pose. Remembering that it is your practice, your time to connect your mind with your body. And especially because I'm not there to see what you're doing, it's very important that you listen to find the edge where you are stretching and working, but in a way that is sustainable, not in a way that you're going to get injured. We'll meet back in downward facing dog. And with an inhale, gaze forward. Step or jump your feet to meet your hands. Exhale, fold deeply. Inhale, reach your arms up and drop your seat. Almost forgot. Exhale, stand tall. Tadasana, mountain pose. One more time. Inhale, arms reach up. Stick your thigh bones back, get low. Root your tailbone down to lift the frontal hip bones. Still working to stack the bones and joints in the back body plane. 3 breaths. And shift the weight to your left foot. Exhale the right leg back. Warrior 1. Finding that deep bend in the front knee that stacks it over the ankle. Hug your legs towards each other. See how that takes the thigh bones back. Inner rotates the back thigh. From the back of the knee, turn the heel in and press it down. Tailbone roots down. Lift the frontal hip bones up. 3 more breaths. And exhale, release. Ground your palms, step back. Feel free to take a vinyasa, to come to downward facing dog, or to have a few breaths in child's pose. Wherever you're working, feel the heat that's being generated in your body through the practice. Breathe it into those places that feel tight and sore and stuck. As you exhale completely, soften, release, and let go. We'll meet back in downward facing dog. With your next inhale, gaze forward. Step or jump your feet to meet your hands. Lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, drop the seat, arms reach up, chair pose. Exhale, stand tall. Tadasana, mountain pose. Good. We'll take the feet wide. Outer edge of your feet parallel with outer edge of your mat. Turn your left foot in slightly. Turn your right foot out all the way. Take a deep bend in your right knee. Again, stacking the bones and joints for the optimal alignment in your body. This back thigh bone is back, creating space in the lower back on that side, bringing the hip in line with the knee and the ankle of the back leg. Both thigh bones pressing back to fully open the hips, making sure that knee doesn't fall inward, that it stacks over the ankle. Tailbone roots down between the sits bones and lift your frontal hip bone away from the thigh bone so we're not here, we're centered. 3 breaths. Do you want to go outside, Danny? Go on. One bit. And inhale, straighten your front leg. Turn the outer edge of your foot parallel with the outer edge of your mat, or actually turn that right foot slightly in, and exhale your foot all the way out. Deep bend in the left knee. Stack that knee over the ankle. Back thigh bone is back. And rooting down through the tailbone. So the tailbone is centered. Frontal hip bone lifts. 3 breaths. Good. Inhale to center. Turn the feet. Both feet parallel with the outside edge of the mat. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, fold forward over the legs. You can ground your palms under your shoulders, or you can begin to walk them back between your feet. Let the head hang heavy either way, and press down into the palms to lift your shoulders. Take a slight bend in your knees. From the back of the knees, lift up to the sits bones. From the back of the knees, press down through the heels. Lift the frontal hip bones away from the thigh bones, even in your forward folds. 3 more deep, long breaths. Inhale, lift your chest, lift your gaze. Exhale, hands on your hips. Inhale, root down to rise up. Exhale the left foot in slightly, right foot out all the way. Press into your heel to engage the muscles at the top of the thigh bone. That's where we begin to turn our leg out. Ground down, press through the big toe mound to lift the inner arch. Hands parallel to the earth. Back thigh bone back. And as you exhale, we're widening it from the inside out as we cut the front thigh bone towards the back thigh bone. So the whole pelvis has to shift as we stretch our side bodies long and come down into triangle pose. Checking back in with those big toe mounds that lift the inner arch. From the back of the knees, lifting up to the sit bones. From the back of your knees, pressing down through your heels. Front thigh bone towards the back thigh bone. Front buttock hugs into the midline of the body. 3 breaths. And with an exhale, bring that left hand to the left hip. Slight bend in your front knee. Hop the back foot in slightly. If the space is limited, then you have to scoot your front foot back. We're reaching the right fingertips out in front of us, side bodies long. Big toe on the right foot is your anchor as you inhale and lift the left leg. Stack the hips and shoulders. Everything is the same that we just did in triangle pose. Standing thigh bone back, buttock into the midline. Hip, knee, and ankle of the back leg stacked. 3 more breaths. Welcome to stay here or bend your knee. Grab your ankle and kick the foot into the hand. Pull the hand on the foot for Ardha Chandra Chapasana. Sugar cane in half moon pose. Once you've had 3 breaths, exhale, open back up. Bend the base leg. Come to warrior 2. Straighten your front leg. Turn the feet. Right foot turns in slightly. Left foot turns out all the way. Press into your heel to grip the muscles in the top of the femur and turn your leg out from there. Press down through the big toe mound, keeping that engagement up here. Making sure your back thigh bone is back. Stacking the bones and joints in all the poses. This is especially important in the back leg of half moon pose. And then exhale, widening from the inner thigh back. Cut your front thigh bone back. Still lift those frontal hip bones as you stretch your side bodies long and come down into triangle pose. From the ground up, check back in. Press through the big toe mound. Make sure this back leg is back as the hip lifts up. Thigh bone back, hip up. Front thigh bone cutting towards the back thigh bone and buttock into the midline of the body. 3 breaths. Create spaciousness in the lower back on both sides. Right hand onto your right hip. Bend your left knee. Scoot the left fingertips out. You're either pulling the front foot back if you have no space in front of you, or reaching the fingertips forward to press down. The left big toe is your anchor. Press through both heels. Standing thigh bone back, buttock into the midline of the body. Don't let this foot float away behind you. Hip, the knee, and the ankle are stacked. If you did so on the other side, bend the foot, grab the foot with the right hand, kick the foot into the hand, pull the hand on the foot, 3 breaths. And exhale, release. Bend your standing knees. Come through warrior 2. Straight legs. Turn the feet. And here we're going to have the feet slightly turned out. Arms to the side. Inhale here. Exhale, you're bending your right knee, bringing your left hand towards your right ankle. So the foot is turned out so the knee stays in line with the ankle. Inhale back to center. Exhale, right hand, left ankle. You'll do 5 more times at your own pace. Allowing your hips to get low and twist, but also keeping your awareness on keeping the ankle in line with the knee. So my foot is like turning in and turning out a little bit. Good. With the feet slightly turned out, deep bend in your front knee. Deep bend in both knees. In line with the ankles. Tailbone rooting. Frontal hip bones lifting. Take your arms like cactus arms. And this is goddess pose. The breath we do here is Kali breath. You go, and stick your tongue out. Do that 3 times. Feels so good. And inhale, rise. Step back. Or jump your feet together, actually. I'm gonna check on the time. I think I ran out of time on Instagram. I'm gonna get that set back up. Feel free to drink some water. How's everybody doing? Good. We will do a, let's inhale, reach your arms up at the top of your mat again. And exhale, fold forward. Take your feet a little bit wide this time, like as wide as your mat. Inhale, gaze forward, lengthen. Exhale, step your left leg back. Your right foot stays wide. Both your hands ground inside your right knee or foot. We're in a lizard prep pose. You can stay here, or you can lower your back knee down. You could take either variation and maybe lower onto your forearms. But remembering that we're not trying to rip our legs off, but to keep alignment. Back thigh bone lifted, widening to the left. Center of the front buttock hugged into the midline of the body as we stretch. Wherever you find yourself, 5 more deep, long breaths. If you're on the forearms, inhale, rise. Tuck your back toes under if your knee is down. Next inhale, you're stepping your back foot forward and coming into a squat pose. So the most important part of this pose is that your heels come to the ground. If that's not happening, feel free to support yourself with your hands as you allow the tailbone to root the heels down. You can also always roll up the back of your mat or place a blanket under your heels so you can get that grounding action. The knees have to be in line with the ankles, so however much your feet turn out, that's how much your knees go out. Again, we don't want our feet out and our knees in. That's going to hurt your knees over time. If it's accessible to bring the hands to the heart, elbows and knees pressed together, hands pressed together to roll the shoulders back, 5 breaths. Bring your awareness back to that Ujjayi breath. Allow it to anchor you as you witness what arises, abides, and dissolves. With an exhale, release your hands, lift your hips high. Inhale, gaze forward, lengthen. Exhale, step the right leg back this time. Both hands ground inside the left foot, and the knee is still stacked over the ankle. You're welcome to stay right here if you're feeling a deep stretch, or to lower the back knee down. Maybe you take either of those variations and lower onto the forearms. But we're still looking for the balance and evenness in the pelvis. The back thigh bone has to lift and widen to the right as the left outer hip hugs into the midline of the body. 5 breaths. With an inhale, rise. Tuck your back toes. Inhale, step the back foot forward. Exhale, lower. One more time, Malasana. Knees in line with the ankles. Hands at the heart. Allow the tailbone and the heels to settle. Lift the abdomen, the heart, and the crown. With an exhale, release and sit back behind you. Bring your soles of your feet together again. Press the pinky edge of the foot together and open through the big toes. Scoot in towards your heels any amount. Make sure that you're getting that lift from the base of the spine. So we don't want to be here when we forward fold because we're just straining a few vertebrae. When we get the lift through the whole spine, the fold happens by hinging at the hips. So maybe you need to sit up on a pillow, a blanket, a block, any random crap you have to get that pelvis into a neutral position where it can ground down. Inhale, lift the abdomen, the heart, and the crown. Exhale, draw the heart forward past your feet. And then allow the spine to round gently inward, keeping the neck in line with the spine, not just collapsing the shoulders and the head. 10 breaths. With an inhale, rise. Take your legs wide. Flex your feet straight up to the ceiling. Press your thigh bones down firmly. Maybe your heels will even lift. Extend through your heels. Soften your calves. The whole midline of the leg presses firmly down. Eventually, no light shines through under your knees. I kind of have it on the right side, and I'm still working on the left because we all have imbalances in our bodies. From the base of the pose, lift and lengthen, and exhale, fold deeply. Keep your toes pointing up. Remember, it's not about smashing your face down, but it's about aligning the body as we work to open. 10 breaths. With an inhale, rise. Bring your legs together. Bend your knees, ground your feet. Stretch past the knees and curl the spine down.
vertebrae by vertebrae. Palms face up at your sides. The knees are bent in close to the buttocks. Press the back of your head and the back of your shoulders into the mat. They become your foundation here. Inhale, lift your pelvis, your low back, your middle back. You can interlace your hands beneath you or just roll your palms to face up and roll your shoulders under. We do not want our feet to turn out here. That's going to crunch the lower back. Outer edge of the feet parallel with the outer edge of the mat. Center of the buttocks draws into the midline, but we're not using the glutes here. The buttocks should be soft. Everything on the earth presses down to lift the heart. From the heart, extend through the knees. From the heart, extend through the crown. One more big breath. And exhale, release. Sway your knees gently from side to side. Once again. The last thing we're going to do is a supine pigeon pose. So extend your left leg out along the mat, toes flexed and active, pointing up. Draw your right knee into the chest and then let the knee go wide to the side. The left hand grabs the right foot and the right arm reaches under behind the calf and the knee. We're laying down so our pelvis stays balanced and even as the shin comes perpendicular to the body, parallel to the floor. You can draw the leg towards the chest. You want to keep your right foot flexed or pointed, but keep it active to protect the hinge of the knee joint. And as you're pulling your leg in gently, we're not ripping our legs off, outer right hip rooting down towards the left heel. Have 5 breaths. Feel free to sway or move in any way that feels good to you here. Observe what comes up, what you can let go of. And once you've had 5 deep, long breaths, breathing into the places that feel tight and sore and stuck, you can exhale and release. Shimmy out your hips a little bit. Flex your right foot up towards the ceiling. Draw your left knee in. Let the left knee go wide and reach for the left foot with the right hand. Keep that foot flexed or pointed, but that activation of the foot keeps the ankle in line with the hinge joint that is the knee. Reach the left hand under. Draw the shin parallel to the floor and perpendicular to your body as you draw it more deeply towards yourself. Remembering to press the right thigh bone down and root the outer left hip down. Have 5 deep, long breaths. Feeling free to sway, move in any way that feels good to you here. Finding the edge of stretch and sustainability. Using the breath to go into those areas that feel tight and sore and stuck. And invite them to soften as you exhale. Once you've had 5 breaths here, release your leg to the mat. Shimmy out the hips. And draw the knees into the chest one final time. Hug yourself tightly into a little ball. Tighten the muscles in the feet, the legs, the core. The nose to the knee. Tighten the shoulders, the arms, the face. Inhale, hug everything in. And exhale. Release. Savasana. Final relaxation. If there is discomfort in the lower back when you extend your legs out, remember you can always keep the knees bent, feet wide, knees fall together. Also, always an option to take Savasana with your legs up on the couch or a chair. And this is actually my favorite Shavasana position. Wherever you find yourself, return to the breath. Inhale so deep and so long that it touches down into the bottoms of the feet and the tips of your toes. And as you exhale completely, soften back, spread wide across the floor. Release any residual tension, anxiety, self-doubt from the body with the breath through the fingertips. Allow this practice to clear you out and to then restore, revitalize. Allow the new alignment and intention to sink in and infuse each and every cell in your being. Take this moment to savor any insights you've received, any bullshit you were able to release, and intentionally deepen your inhales. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Gently sway your head. With an inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. Give yourself a big stretch from fingertips to tippy toes. Exhale here. Inhale, draw your knees into your chest. And exhale, roll to the right side body. Pause in this fetal position for a moment. Gather your bearings. When you're ready, press down with your palms to lift up. Come to a comfortable seated position. Keep your eyes closed for just a moment. Check back in. Notice the quality of your breath after your practice. Notice where in your body you're still holding tension and where some things may have shifted. Observe the speed of the thoughts through the mind in this moment. And then return your awareness to anchor completely on your breath. We will seal our collective efforts with a single Om. Allow your low body to be heavy and ground you down. Inhale, lift and lengthen through the heart and crown. Exhale, roll the shoulders together and down the back. Lean gently back to stack the vertebrae. Inhale deeply to prepare. Bring your hands to your heart and bow your head in gratitude for the lineage and the tools of this practice that remind us the importance of going inward to contemplate our own darkness and the reflections and connections between the individual, the micro, and the macro collective levels of our existence. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. How you feeling? Good.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. I love your orange in your house.
Yeah, I figured out this week that I don't have to move my coffee table. I can like sideways my yoga mat and put my computer on top of my record player instead of moving the coffee table. So a little different view, but
I like it.
thanks. I'll see you later.
Okay, bye. Have a good day, y'all.
Bye, Tyler. Thank you.
Thanks, Ivy. Bye. How you doing, Mom? Everything okay with you? I can't hear you.